Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. Baruch haba, welcome. This is our Hebrew beginners class, and so we start with the letters that we know. ¿Está bien? Was that the funny bone or the not funny bone?
The one that hurts.
The one that hurts. It's only funny if it's somebody else's bone, right?
Yeah.
It's not funny when it's your own bone. All right, we're going to Hey. All right, this is how far we haven't gotten to Hey yet. We just mentioned Hey last week, but we're going to go ahead and count it. So let's do the Aleph Bet to Hey. Ready?
Okay, vamos a
Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet Hey. Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet Hey. Again. Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet Hey. Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet Hey. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good job. Muy bien. ¿Qué pasa?
No, she says that here is going to be learning Hebrew and English.
Hebrew and English. Muy bien.
Everything for the price of one.
Si yo necesito, tú necesitas, alright? Yo necesito practicando aprender español y ustedes inglés y todos. Okay? Alright, good job. Okay, so we're going to wrap up Gimel tonight and we're going to go into Dalet. And we'll just like introduce K, alright? So, just to remind us where we are, Gimel, Gamel, Camel. Okay, so the letter represents a camel, in effect. And so the paleo, this is called paleo, the ancient Hebrew, is of a camel kneeling.
Yeah.
And its number is 3. So we introduced why the camel, why Gimel, why the camel? Because Gimel represents a rich man. Okay? Gimel represents a rich man. Why? Because you have Aleph and you have Be. And Aleph and Be, when you put them together, Av means father. And a man with a home, a good home, and good children, is considered to be a rich man. So one of the things for our notes, have you studied Hebrew at all, or?
We learn and we begin.
Okay,
well.
so I just want to know where you stand with it, so I can explain that in Hebrew.
But we have idea.
Yeah, in Hebrew the letters are next to each other because they're related to the next letter. Okay, so that's why they're not in the same order as the American alphabet or whatever. So you have the Aleph next to the Be because this represents the father. Be represents a house. Okay. And so the Dagesh is the father in the house, makes it strong between B and B. Okay? So this, the numbers 1, this is Aleph is 1, Be is 2, equals 3. Gimel is 3. Okay, so a father with a house is a rich man. Okay? He's a man who is blessed. Okay, so The sound of Gimel is the hard G. G. In Hebrew, there is no J sound. There is no J sound. Or, for example, in English, we have the word gym. Okay, so and we use that. We spell that with a G sound, with a G. But in Hebrew, there's no such letter. Okay, so you actually have to put letters together to make some of our Spanish or English letters or what have you. You'll have to combine letters to come up with the same kind of sound. That is called transliteration. So we're used to transliterating from Hebrew to English letters, but sometimes you have to translate from you have to transliterate from English into Hebrew. You have to combine letters and things like that to come up with the same type of sound. So it's a hard G, as in Gimel. Okay. So we've been talking about he's a rich man. That this is a rich man. Remember that the definition, the defining term, this will be the defining term. The defining term goes into the letter. When that letter is placed into the word, it takes that definition with it into the word. So it helps us to define the word. So this is why a lot of times Hebrew, when you're trying to translate Hebrew to English or Spanish or another language, sometimes it will take you a whole sentence to try to define it, and even with that, sometimes there's not a good definition for the word. Okay? So understand that this idea is going with this into the word. Okay? We talked about the camel. How is it that the camel is related to the rich man? Well, because only rich men had camels. It was like the Cadillac of their day. It was the expensive item. Just like we talked about with the olive. It was the rich man, it was the rich farmer who had the ox. The olive represents an ox. Okay? So you have olive, the letter olive. In the Paleo, look like this. Looks like an upside down A, which is where, in fact, we get our A from. Okay? And what is that? It's an ox. Why? It represents strength. So, the names of God begin with God. The term God, Elohim, begins with an aleph. The Adonai, Abba, Father, Adonai, Lord, these all begin with aleph. Why? Because they're all positions of strength. Okay? So, the aleph takes that definition with it. Okay? So, the Gimel takes this definition with it. We were talking about the ox. Only the rich man had an ox. Okay? A middle-class farmer, he'd probably have a donkey, right? This was the big four-wheel drive John Deere tractor. Okay, the middle-class man, he might have a donkey to pull, or a couple of donkeys to pull his plow. The poor man, what does he have? His wife and his children, right? So they would put the wife, literally, they would put the wife or the children in the what do you call it?
Yoke.
The yoke, thank you. We put it in the yoke, and the wife and the children would pull the plow, and the husband, the father, would be behind the plow steering it, and this is the way that they would plant their seed, the way they would plant, because they could not afford animals. Okay? So, just like when I was growing up, I grew up on a little cotton farm that my father had, and we had a little 4-cylinder, 2-row tractor. Stood like about this high. Okay? And it was so light that my brothers and myself would have to get on the plow. We'd have to sit on the plow to put weight on it so that it would go into the ground. And we would ride on the plow while my dad was plowing the field. Okay? You have a big John Deere 4-wheel drive tractor, you don't need all that stuff. Okay? And it's much faster, does a lot more, accomplishes a lot more, all of these kinds of things. Okay? So the same way that the ox strength goes into olive, so the camel represents the rich man. This is the Cadillac for the rich man. Very important to remember to note that the Torah tells us how many camels Abraham had. How many camels he had. Why? To explain to us that he had whatever 300 Cadillacs, if you would. Plus how many oxen he had. Plus how many donkeys he had. To tell us just exactly, because he was a very, very wealthy man. Yet he was a man of great kindness. He was a man of what we call chesed. Chesed means to have mercy, but it means kindness, to show kindness. And so we could say that Abraham is a rich man. Okay? The thing about the rich man, this is the rich man, and these are his feet, this is his arm, and he's running this way. Now remember, we told you to notice, to take note of which direction the letters are facing. Okay? So, for example, the bet. Which way is it open to? It's open to this. Meaning what? It's pointing to the Gimel. The Gimel is running. Which direction? Which direction is he running? This way. Why is he running this way? To the Dalet. Which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Okay? So he's running to the Dalet. Why is he running to the Dalet? He's running to the Dalet for the sake of chesed. He's running to the Dalet, we have, for the sake of kindness. Because as we're going to talk about the Dalet, this is the rich man, this is the poor man. So it's not just that he's there, it's not just that he exists being rich. Nor is it that he's walking around being rich. And if he happens to come upon a poor person, then perhaps he might help. But that he is running, and that the way it's expressed here, that his arm is outstretched. This is his arm. So he's running like this. Okay? Do my pose. He's running like this, as though he's carrying his wealth, his money, his possessions in front of him. He's running to the Dalet. He's running to the poor man. What does it mean that he's running to the poor man? That he's looking for the poor man. He's looking for a poor man to help. Saying what? He's not waiting for the poor man to come to him. Rather, he's going out to the poor man. So Yeshua tells a parable about a rich man who's going to have a banquet. And he invites all his rich friends to come to the banquet. Do you remember the response of his friends? They all say no. The one says what? The one says, I have bought me an ox, and I need to go out and test it. I bought me a John Deere tractor, I need to go check it out. The other one says, I bought me a piece of property, I need to go look at it. The other says, I have married a wife. And so they all have excuses about why they could not come.
They were lost in the world.
Yes, in their possessions. Which is the example. So, the rich man tells the servants, go out into the highways and the byways The King James says into the highways and the hedges, and search for people to come and bring them in and let them banquet with us. Who's out in the highways? Who's out in the hedges? What kind of people is it? Who's he speaking to? What is this about? He's speaking to these people. He's speaking about them. The rich man tells his servants, go out and find the poor and bring them in. Go out and look for the poor. Look for people who normally would not be invited to a banquet, and invite them to my banquet. So if you would imagine perhaps a party at the White House. Everybody's wearing tuxedos, right? We call it a black tie event. Everybody has to have the black tie, the black coat. The women are the ladies are all dressed up. All of their finery, their hair is all made up. All of the jewelry, everything like that. They're driving up in their limousines, right? And the doorman is opening the door and getting them out and walking them in, introducing them as they come in and everything like that. Now, how many of us have been to an event like that? I have never been to an event like that. How about you? Much less the people that live around Placita. Much less the people, much less the ladies that are walking the street at night. Much less the drunks who are trying to get their way home from the bar tonight. You would not expect these people to be invited to this type of event at the White House. This is who the rich man tells them, go and bring them to me. Bring them to the banquet. Why? Why then? Remember that Yeshua, that the accusation that was made against Yeshua is that he ate, that he dined with sinners. The low class. Sinners as opposed to the religious people. That we wait as religious people. We're involved in our religion. We're involved in our religious life. But what about this person? Or that person? What about the people that are out there who are homeless? What about the people who are living in the poor part of town? What about the people that are living in gangland, where the gangs are? What about the people that are involved with drugs and alcohol and prostitution and all of these things we look down on? These are the people to whom Yeshua went. Why? Because he said, it is not those who are well who need the physician, who need the doctor. It is those who are ill who need, those who are sick who need the doctor. With whom are we concerned? This is the whole idea of Gimel. Because you see, the truth of this is that you and I are the rich men. What is this? Not necessarily rich in possessions, but rich in understanding, rich in our relationship with God, rich in goodness and these kinds of things. And this is what we have to share. Not just our material possessions, but also the spiritual values that come along with who we are in our relationship with God. And so we need to be careful with this. Yeshua did not go out and tell all of the people out there, come into the church, come to church, come to church, come to church. Nor to synagogue or assembly. Because the truth is the assembly is not for those people. The synagogue is not for those people. The church is not for those people. This is for the believers to come together for the worship and the edification of the believers. Saying what? When we come to assembly, I'm not saying that they should not come or they cannot come, or don't misunderstand me here. What I'm saying is that the assembly are for those who already are of faith and believe, so that I may learn and I may grow. But Yeshua did not tell the world to come to the believer. He told the believer to go to the world. Just as the rich man in his parable, the rich man did not tell the people out there to come in. He sent his servants out to them to invite them to come in. You see the understanding, the distinction here. It is our responsibility to go out and bring them in. The cotton in the cotton field, when I grew up on the cotton farm, the cotton out there in the field did not walk to the trailer by itself, did not walk. You understand what I'm saying? We had a big cotton trailer, and it would hold like 3 bales of cotton in it. The cotton did not walk to the trailer and get in, jump in by itself. What? Dad sent us out into the field to do what? To pick the cotton. We didn't have machines. We were the machines. We didn't have machines. A farmer one time asked Dad, how come you don't get a cotton picker? He said, I've got 5. We were the cotton pickers. So when Dad would say those cotton picking kids, he was being honest. So Dad would send us out into the field. And the reason why I brought up machines is because picking cotton for us was a very personal thing. Why? It was you and the cotton, one-on-one. You with each plant. You went through the field, row by row, plant by plant. Picking, 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 picking. Picking, picking. And Dad would come in behind. Every couple of hours, Dad would come out and he would look at the field. And if you were picking dirty, you know what picking dirty is? You're leaving a lot of stuff behind. He'd make us go back and pick that row. You go back and pick that again. You're leaving too much behind. Why? It was money. It was costing him money to leave that cotton behind. So he'd make us go back and pick it again. You had a very personal relationship. We knew every type of bug, worm, weed, everything that was in that field. Because we were there up close and personal with every cotton plant as we went through. Do you see what I'm saying? This is supposed to be our relationship with the people outside. Not that they're to come to us, but that we're to go to them. Up close and personal, face to face. Looking at them, knowing them, getting to know them, getting to know their lives. And why is this? Why is this important? Because no prostitute, when they were 7 years old, ever said, when I grow up, I want to be a prostitute. No drug addict, when they were 7 years old, ever said, I want to grow up to be a drug addict. No alcoholic, when they were 7 years old, said, when I grow up, I want to be an alcoholic. Saying what? Something got them off the path. There's a reason why those people are the way they are. We have the tendency to be critical of them, to look at them with an evil eye, with what? A bad eye. We have the that we say things about them. We speak ill of them. We have bad feelings about them. All of these kinds of things. Not understanding that something happened in their life that brought them to that place, that brought them to that position. That it wasn't, yes, it was choices that they made and things like that, but not just that. if I worked in a public high school for 17 years. And one of my jobs that I had there for the majority of that time was to work in ISS. ISS is in-school suspension. And this was the discipline classroom. So if a teacher was having problems with the student or what have you, they would be sent to me. It's easy to go in there hard and be hard-nosed and hard-faced. But as I sat there and as I sometimes listened to the story of these kids and watched them and found out about them in different ways and different means and manners. Some of the kids, some of the girls that came in there were being abused by a brother or a father. Some of them were being beaten. Some of them were, it was a means of escape for them. So they were in trouble as a means of escape.
So they're acting out upon what's going on.
Because of what's going on in the home. Some of it was because of what's going on in the school. Now some of them are, bad is bad. We don't excuse it. And I'm not saying that we excuse bad behavior. We don't agree with bad behavior. We don't excuse bad behavior. But the other side of that is that we also do not judge because we don't know where these people are coming from. So my position is not to judge this lady this woman because she's walking the streets at night. But rather to what? To lift out my hand to rescue her, to pick her up.
But most people don't go out and do any of it.
Exactly, that's my point.
I mean, we have an opportunity in this assembly to now do that.
Yes.
And people can either come with me as I lead this or not. But
Correct.
Sunday we are going to pass out, pass out, or I'm going to put up a tent. We've got the lady that was sitting next to me, and we're going to distribute gifts to these people. And this lady that came with me knows every story of every person that's been in that park, in and out, for 8 years. She's actually activated doing that. We are now, as this group, able to come help her. And she's there every Saturday, which is our Shabbat. But there's also groups that go there on Sunday. But most people don't, they want to wash their hands. They go look at the girls and their hands are dirty and they don't want to touch them. They treat them less than animals.
Exactly. So the thing is then about running to help. Saying what? That I'm going out to look. That I'm going out to find. Okay? This is the position of the rich man. The rich man is not rich because because of his possessions. He's rich because of his attitude. This is the true richness. This is the true wealth.
Acts of kindness?
Yes. Because though the Torah mentions the wealth of Abraham, more important was the fact that Abraham was Ish Chesed. He was a man of kindness. And this is the heart of Judaism. He is the father. And this is the heart of Judaism. We spoke last week, and we're going to move on. We spoke last week that the sages tell us that Abraham, that no stranger walked past his tent. In other words, down the road, no stranger passed his tent, but that he was not invited in. Okay? So, the Gemel, let's look at the Gemel up at top because it's a better representation for you. So the Gemel, just take off the foot here, and just this here, right here. What letter does that look like?
Vav.
A Vav, very good. So you have the Vav here. See that? See the Vav?
Yeah.
Okay? This, the foot, is the Yud. What is the Yud? It's the hand. The Yud is a hand. that this is a man. What does the hand represent? We'll get to it more when we get to the yud. The hand represents action. To do. How do you do? You do with your hands. Okay? So most men like to do things with their hands. You know, building things and working on cars and these. So you do with your hands. All right. So the yud is the hand. So saying that to say that the yud, that this is a vav and a yud, that this is a man of action. He's not just sitting there. He's doing. He's doing. This is why Jewish people are very active in charities. Jewish people are very active in charities. In fact, the two most charitable people, determinedly so, inarguably so, the two most charitable groups in the United States today are the Orthodox Jews and the fundamental Christians. These two are the most charitable, provably, in the United States. So it's a thing of action. Judaism teaches that we take action. You will hear me say this often. It is not see something, say something. It is see something, do something. God does not send people our way. We do not encounter people in need. Neither to pass them by, as though we're blind. Remember the story of the Good Samaritan. And what happens? The Kohen passes on the other side. The Levite passes on the other side. But the man from Shomron, the Samaritan man, he stops. He sees something and he does something. This is the way of God. This is the will of God for us, that we see something, we do something about it. The reason why this person has been put in front of us is so that we can do something about it. If I cannot do something about it, then my responsibility is to find someone who can. So, it may be that this person has a type of need that you're not able to meet, financially, physically, whatever. Find someone who can help. Do something about it. Make an effort. I told you last week, this is not a matter of emotion. Do you know that emotion comes from the nefesh bechama? From the flesh. Emotion comes from the flesh. It is not spiritual. So the rabbis teach us that we're not to give out of emotion. We're to give because it's the right thing to do, whether you're emotionally involved or not. So when I see that commercial on TV, that cute little girl, that cute little boy, they got mud all over their face, whatever, they have the tear running down their eye, and what, my heart's, right? Your heart is like this. And do you know whether that boy or girl is real or not? Do you know if that's a real event taking place there?
I think the fly is real.
The fly may be real, or maybe not. It might. They do have little robots that are that big, that small now. They can control it. How big is the little controller for the little fly?
50 years I've watched that.
That's fine and good,
We can change the world.
but we're not to give out of emotional impulse. Because today, right now, while I'm watching the commercial, I feel like it. What about tomorrow? Or next week, or next month, or next year? Because emotions are like this. Today I'm like this, tomorrow I'm like that. Do you ever get up on the wrong side of the bed? Anybody here ever get up on the wrong side of the bed? Do you ever say, I got up on the wrong side of the bed? So what is the answer to getting up on the wrong side of the bed? Go back to bed and get up on the other side. Because your emotions change, they're fickle. Why? Because they come from the flesh, they're not of the Spirit. This is why the scripture says we walk by faith, not by sight. So when I see that person stranded in their car on the side of the highway, I must stop and render aid. It is my duty. It's the right thing to do. Do you know why most people go zooming by? Because their emotions don't let them stop.
Yeah, they're either fearful, they're busy.
Mostly it's because their emotions don't let them stop. We're living in such an age today where the truth is people don't care unless it concerns them. Let me tell you what happened. Last Thursday night on my way here. Last Thursday night on the way here. I'm coming in from Rio Hondo. I pass the grain elevator, come across the bridge because of the detour, and I get to the grain elevator, and as I come to the stop sign to, what is that, 508 coming in, I come to the stop sign, and I'm going to turn left to come into Harlingen, and I see a car sitting on the side of the road with the flashers off. Okay, there's a car on the side of the road. So I make my turn and I start heading in that direction. And as I come to the car, it looks very curious underneath. There's something not right. So as I'm passing by, I kind of slow down and I'm passing by and I see orange underneath the car. As in fire, as in flames. And I'm driving by and I slow down and I look. The roadway, the engine underneath the car has caught fire. And as I'm driving by, I see a man I can see him there as I'm passing by, and I see this man trying to work on the hood, trying to work underneath there. He's got the hood open and I don't know what he's doing, but the fire was just real small. I don't even know if he saw it or not. There's another man sitting in the front seat, and then there's a woman and 3 kids in the back seat. And I could see them with their faces up against the window. And I don't think they had any idea that the car was on fire. So I stopped, I turned around, and I came up behind them. And I opened the doors and I start telling them, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. And so they're getting out, and by that time the fire is growing, and you can see it from the glass, from the windshield. You can see the fire starting to come up into the motor. And so we're pulling them out, pulling them out. They had all their school things in there. They had clothes in there. Everything's there. So we're getting all the kids out. We get them to the back of the car. And I go back in and I put all of their stuff in a box. I put all their clothes and all of their stuff in a box. Why? What's going through my mind? That the car's going to explode? Definitely. But what else is going on in my mind is that these kids' clothes. What are they going to wear? Their books and all of these things. And so I'm just as fast as I can get them, I'm just throwing them in this box and I pull it out and I go, and one of the men comes up to me and he says, did you happen to see a cell phone in there? He doesn't have his cell phone. So I go back and I crawl into the back seat. I said, where was it? He says, in the back seat there. And so I go crawling around in the back seat and I put my hand on the seat where the little boy had been sitting. And it was all wet. You know what that means? That little boy in his fear and his excitement wet himself. And now I put my hand there. And so you know how your brain is thinking, right? And I'm thinking, all right, now that's great. Now I got this all over my hand and I don't have any way to wash it and what have you, right? And then I'm thinking, it doesn't matter, the car's gonna burn up. You're sitting here worried about washing your hands. So while I was in there doing that, a constable had pulled up behind me and he turned his lights off. And he grabbed the family and put them back between my truck and his car. When I got out, the older man, he's there walking around and he was telling me in Spanish to help. If there was, and I was, what do you need? What do you need? Agua! Necesito agua! He needed water. He's going to put out the fire. And I said, no hay agua, no hay. Ahí vienen los bomberos. And he tells me, it's going to be too late. It's my car. I don't have anything else. And I wanted to sit there with him and just cry. He's going to lose, literally, a poor family. This is all they have. An old car. It's all they have. And he's going to lose the only thing he has, his car. What struck me the whole time that this is going on, what struck me is how many cars passed by that scene and did not stop to help. Not one car. Not. And I can tell you in that 10 minutes that it took for that to happen, it took me 20 minutes to tell it, took about 10 minutes to go through it. 20 to 30 cars passed by. And the only car that stopped to help was the constable. But I said to my wife when I got home, I said to my wife, I couldn't believe it. Nobody stopped to help. Here's a car on fire with children, a lady, 2 men, and nobody stopped to help. You see an accident out on the street. Somebody gets run over. Oh, they'll stop and look, and they'll stop and go. You see an accident up on the interstate, up on the expressway, and oh, they'll slow down, and oh, they'll look at it. But you actually stop and get out of your car and help. Now, the only reason why I'm telling you this, I did not tell you this last week because it was right there. I was still raw. I was shaking all the way in from that. And I didn't tell you about it. But I'm telling you tonight, because this is the attitude, this is the heart of too many people. That we're too busy about our lives and too busy what's going on in my own personal life and what I have going on and all of these different kinds of things to where I cannot even stop. It's the right thing to do. That's why we do it. We help people, not because it makes us feel good. Sometimes it doesn't make us feel so good. I drove with my hand out the window all the rest of the way in because I couldn't wash it. It doesn't always make me feel good. But it's not about emotion and it's not about how I feel. It's because it's the right thing to do. And so that's the Umen. You've heard me speak of the tree of life. We introduced to you the number 3 as we were closing last week. How many of you remember that? The number 3. And remember, I asked you what did I tell you? Does anybody remember what I told you? What was 3? What it represented? Stability. Like a stool. Very good. Why? Because if I have a stool, how many of you have a stool in your house? Okay? So like a stool, if it only has one leg, how balanced is it? Can you sit very well on it? Huh? If you have a stool, okay, this is my stool. By the way, all my artwork is copyrighted, okay? It goes to the Smithsonian when we're done, so you cannot take it, all right? So, this is my stool. If it has one leg, how balanced is that? No? What about if it has 2 legs? How balanced is that? No. A stool has to have what? At least 3 legs to be balanced. So, 3 represents stability. 3 represents stability. So we talked about the tree of life. So this is just a basic diagram of the tree of life. There. So this is a basic diagram of the tree of life. I don't think they can see it yet. So notice how many you have. How many pillars do you have? These are called pillars of the tree. How many do you have? 3. Okay? So this pillar is called the pillar of judgment. This pillar is called the pillar of mercy. And this pillar is called the pillar of direct access. Direct access to what? Well, at the very top we have a sephira, an attribute called keter, which means crown. This is the place of Elohim, of God. Direct access to God. I don't have time to go into everything with you tonight. You can go back in our videos and watch it, and you see these things coming together and what they mean. But saying that you have 3, you have 3. Correct? If you only have the side of judgment, so let's say that this is father, this is mother. Why? Because the mother always says to the child, you just wait till your father gets home. Right? Because it's the father who does what? Discipline. The mother is what? The mother, the child goes to the mother, please mom, please mom, please mom. And mom says, okay. So when we wanted something, where did we go? We went to mom. She's the one. If I needed money for school, what have you, I would always go to mom. Why? Because dad would probably tell me no. Mom, she would find a way. Okay? So you have these distinctions here of judgment and of mercy. If all you have is judgment, if all you have in the home is discipline, 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 you're always getting, they're always down on you. Then what's going to happen? If all you have is punishment taking place and discipline taking place, judgment taking place, what's going to happen? The child's going to get angry. So, is this a stable home? Is this a stable home? No. Is this a good home? No. What about this kind of home? Where all you have is mercy, mercy, mercy. Kindness, 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 kindness. No. What happens? The child is spoiled. Always getting his way, always getting his way, always getting his way. So then what? He gets to school and what have you, he goes to work, he gets a job, and he can't have his way. What happens? He has a fit, throws a tantrum, these kinds of things. Is this a good home? Is this a balanced home? No. So what does it take? It takes both judgment and mercy working together.
But aren't those the things that you told us that Elohim?
Yes, Elohim is a term of judgment.
So that shows that God is balanced.
Yes, exactly. He's both. He acts, and he actually acts. He has both masculine and feminine attributes. He's both mother and father to us. So it takes the three of them. So you have these two working together, crossing over to this third pillar. And this is what gives you the balance.
And so it's giving you that access.
This pillar, by the way, the middle of this pillar is Tiferet. Tiferet is the realm of the Mashiach, the Messiah. Messiah is your direct access.
Here is right in the middle.
So, let me put it to you in another way. Let's draw another chart. You have three pillars. This pillar is the pillar of judgment. This one is the pillar of mercy. And this one is the pillar of direct access. Now, you notice how they're connected here? What if I go like this? What do you see now?
Jesus is the best.
Good. The scripture is very clear. It tells us what? 3 crosses. 3 trees. What was he crucified on? A tree. This is called Etz Chaim, the tree of life. Okay? What was he crucified on? A tree. The cross was made of wood. He was crucified on a tree. You have a thief on each side. That's us. We're the thieves. You have a thief on each side. One thief is reserved for judgment. One thief is reserved for mercy. Why? Because one rejects, one accepts. So this one, what happens? He makes fun of Yeshua. He chides him just like the people are doing, making fun of him. So what? He dies in his sin. This one over here, what does he say? Remember me when you enter Malchut, when you enter into your kingdom. Malchutecha, your kingdom. Zakron. Zakroni Malchutecha. Remember me when you enter your kingdom. And so what does Yeshua say to him? Today you will be with me in Pardes, in paradise. By the way, Pardes, paradise, that's the Garden of Eden. Okay? So what? Through this middle one, you have what? Direct access. Even in the crucifixion of Yeshua, you have represented the tree of life. You have the 3. Okay? So it's stability. Alright, let's go to Dalet. Alright, so we have Dalet. I already told you that Dalet is the poor man. Let me readjust our cameras here. Hope I'm not making anybody dizzy on there. Alright, so Dalet. This is the Dalet. Everyone say Dalet.
Dalet.
And Dalet is the letter D. Dalet is the letter D. Just so as a piece of information for you, remember that the Beit can take a dagesh. And what does the dagesh mean?
It's a strong being.
It's strong, it strengthens it, hardens it, okay? So the Dalet can also take a dagesh. So where do you see the Dalet in the dagesh? You see it in so this is a term, tzaddik, from where we get tzedakah. The box back there has tzedakah. Okay? Tzedakah means righteous, righteousness, a righteous act. It's a term that we use for charity. Remember that it's the right thing to do. We give because that's why an act of charity is not called chesed, it's not called mercy, it's actually called tzedakah, an act of righteousness. It's the right thing to do. Okay? Notice that the D in tzaddik is doubled. Okay? That's the dagesh. That's the work of the dagesh. So that when you transliterate it, when you see a word and it's got a double letter, the reason it has the double letters is because in the Hebrew that's carrying a dagesh with it. Okay? It's hardening it. Because it's not a tzaddik, as in like you would soften it by like a sound, a th sound, tzaddik. But make sure that you hit it hard, tzaddik, that D is in there, tzaddik. Okay? Notice that the dalet is the heart of the word tzaddik. The dalet is here at the heart. It's the center. It's the actual root. It's the peg that holds everything together, you might say. Okay? So, the whole idea of tzedakah, the whole idea of tzaddik, a tzaddik is a righteous man. This is a righteous man. Hombre justo. Okay? And so we have tzedakah. Tzedakah is actually how you spell it. Okay? So tzedakah is a righteous act. Notice that the dalet is the root. So let's look at the dalet. First of all, it is a poor man. This is the poor man. So the rich man running to give to the poor man. Remember our story. Remember that everything is pointing to Mashiach. Every letter points to the Mashiach. The whole Torah points to the Mashiach. Okay? So, who's the rich man then? Who's the rich man?
We are.
But who else? Who's the rich man?
Jesus.
Oh, very good. So Yeshua, Mashiach is the rich man. He's the ultimate one who's reaching out his hand, who's running, who came what? He came looking to seek and to save that which was lost. Okay? So he's the ultimate rich man. He sets the example for us. So if we say that we're following Yeshua, if we say that we're following Jesus, then we're to be in this vein, in this mind, in this attitude. Philippians chapter 2, verse 5. Let this mind be in you, which was in Yeshua Mashiach. Okay? So, and there, we don't have time tonight, but you can go there. Philippians chapter 2, and read the whole chapter. It tells you how to be a tzaddik, how to be a true follower of Yeshua. Okay? So, this is the poor man. What is the poor man? The poor man is a vav. The dalet is a vav. See the vav?
Yes.
So this is a vav. But what's different? What's different between this vav and this vav?
Okay, ¿cuál es la diferencia entre
This vav is bending over. Is bent over. Correct? Thus the poor man. He's bent or he's bowing. He's bent or he's bowing. The word dalet means door. We'll get to that in a minute. We also have dalet, and this means poverty. A person who's in extreme poverty, dalet. Notice that dalet here, we look at the consonants. There are no vowels in Hebrew. In actual Hebrew, there are no vowels. You're only looking at the consonants. So notice that the consonants of dalet, put it here, and dalet. So give me the consonants here of dalet. Just consonants.
D, T.
What are the consonants of Dalet? Exactly the same.
Same.
Exactly the same. Why? Because being poor has something to do with the door. Being poor has something to do with the door. If I put it in Hebrew for you, Dalet. This spells both Dalet and Dalet. There are no, if you look at the Torah scroll, there are no vowels in Hebrew. The Nikud, the Nikudot, the vowel markers came around the 1500s. By the Masoretic, the people we call Masoretim, the Masoretes, Masoretic texts, where the King James Version of the Bible comes from and all that. So you have the Dalet and the Dalet. They're spelled exactly the same. The only difference is the pronunciation of the vowels. Dalet, Dalet. Meaning what? They're the same. The way through the door is by means of poverty.
Is that sort of like the Beatitudes, blessed is the, is that in that whole grouping of,
Yes.
of scripture?
Yes, yes, we're going to get there in just a minute.
The way through the door.
Poverty is the way through the door. What do we mean, poverty? Well, again, we're not talking possessions. For example, we all know people who have wealth, who have means, who are not very happy. They're actually quite sad. Not all of them, but we all know somebody like that, or have heard of somebody like that. We also know of people who are poor, and yet they're very happy people. So it's not a matter of means or not having means, because you can have means and be unhappy. You can be poor, not have means, and still be happy. Okay? So it's not that. We're talking on a whole different level. And the different level of which we speak is a spiritual level. So, the thing about the Dalet, what Dalet says is, I own nothing. I own nothing. Do you see how that relates to a poor man? Because a poor man, what? Owns nothing. So, Dalet, I own nothing. This is a mentality. This is actually a spiritual place. What this is saying is this: I own nothing. Why? Because the king owns everything. I own nothing. The king owns everything. When we understand that, we understand the words of Yeshua, we understand what he's teaching, what he's saying, where he's going with all of this. Because this is our rightful position. This is the place where we're supposed to be. In our Wednesday night class where we're teaching about the tree of life, this is where we're going with this. I said this before. You will hear me say this many, many times. This is a real kingdom, and we're serving a real king. Say that with me. This is a real kingdom, and we are serving a real king. Because we have this tendency of looking at the kingdom, at Malchut Shemayim, the kingdom of heaven, looking at Malchut Elohim, the kingdom of God. We have a tendency of looking at them, at this kingdom as being imagination. Saying what? Do you see a kingdom? Do we in this physical life, do we experience a kingdom?
No.
We don't even live in a kingdom. We live in a democratic republic. We live in a democracy. We elect presidents, so we don't even have kings and queens here. So we have no real concept of what a kingdom is about, what royalty is about, what monarchy is about. And that's why I emphasize over and over again that this is a real king. He's a real king and this is a real kingdom. Because you see, we judge much of what's going on around us by the nefesh bechama, by the animal instinct, by the human instinct, by the physical. Not by the spiritual. The truth is that for most of us, we're blinded from the spiritual. Yet the reality is, the spiritual world is more real than this world, the physical world. I told you in the first class, if you've never watched the movie The Matrix, watch it. The Matrix explains all of this. The Matrix was created as a movie that was written, created by two Jewish men. And it's all about the idea of what is real and what is not real. What is the real world and what is not real. What is real and what is make-believe, pretend. So, the star of the movie, he's given a choice of 2 pills to take. He can take one pill and he can enter the matrix. He takes the other pill and he returns back to his life. He chooses the blue pill, he enters the matrix, he finds out that what he thought was the real life is all computer programmed. It's all make-believe. This is tree of life material, this is Kabbalah. This is the Zohar. This is where they got it from. Do you know that according to science, there is no real such thing as matter? Matter, meaning what? Meaning matter, 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 matter. Do you know that Albert Einstein said, all matter is light particles whose vibration has slowed to such an extent that they appear to be solid. There is no such thing as matter. Albert Einstein. All matter is light particles whose vibration has been slowed to such an extent that it appears to be solid. Appears to be. It's not. Saying what? What exists? What exists? Because you see, you can say that you see me. We're getting into the physics esoteric, okay, realm here, into quantum physics here. You say you see me. No, you don't see me. What you see is light being reflected off of what appears to you to be a physical thing. But all the physical thing actually is what? Actually light itself. That has been slowed to such an extent in its vibration that it has an appearance of being solid.
So when Jesus said, I'm the light of the world, but it's like if he is the light, then he became solid, we saw him, we thought we did.
Sure. Okay, so Let's go back to today's sheet. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 1. What's the first thing that was created? Light. And God said, let there be light. Thus, everything was created from light. Mind you that the sun and the moon and the stars did not exist yet. Where does the light come from? The scripture says, He is the light. So, what is real? What is not real? What appears to us in this physical realm, in this physical world to be real, is not the reality.
That's why He doesn't want us to attach ourselves to it.
He does not, correct.
That's why we can move mountains and stuff, like you said.
Or we bend things that are like against nature. The miracles that Jesus did were actually not in the law of nature. They're not. You don't do the things He does unless you're breaking nature. It's not the law.
No, not necessarily. Because
What's a miracle?
because
You have no
a miracle is
eyes.
something, a miracle is nothing more than something that you're not used to seeing. That's all it is. Okay? Why? Okay, so Yeshua could walk on water. Why is that miraculous to us? Well, because I cannot. Why? Well, because I live in 4 dimensions.
So He was showing us a supernatural.
He was showing us what is supernatural. What is supernatural? That He knows that there's more than just 3 and 4 dimensions. There are actually 12, no, 15, no, 17. The last that I read was 19 dimensions. That most of those dimensions are folded over themselves, so we cannot experience them. We can't see them. We don't know what they are. We can only relate to this. This is why we say concerning God that He has eyes, that He has ears, that He has hands, that He has feet. Yet He has none of these things because He's not a body. He's not physical. Why do we say He has hands? This is called anthropomorphism. Why do we say He has hands? Why do we say He has feet? That He has eyes? That He has ears? That He has a mouth? That why do we say that the smoke goes up into His nostrils? All these kind. Why do we use these anthropomorphisms? Because that's the only way we can comprehend Him. The spiritual realm is more real than this realm.
You think it's more than the matter is different than here? Or you think they're all kind of made out of the same? All the dimensions, you think they're all made out of the same, like this, light? Or do you think one is real?
They're all part of creation. We just can't experience them. In the world to come, that's one of the wonders, is that you will be able to experience. This world where we're living right now is very, very different from the world that Adam lived in. Because he experienced all of that. It was a very different world. The world that we're living in today is dead compared to the world that Adam lived in. In fact, the rabbis tell us that in the world to come, in the land to come, the life to come, that we're going to experience the world in its vibrant colors and its vibrating colors like we have never been able to experience here. That actually we see things vividly as being vivid and bright and all in glorious. And you look at the sunsets and everything like that, and the rabbis say actually this is dullness compared to what God originally created and what He's going to have for us in the world to come, in the life to come. This is why Rosh Hashanah says that eye has not seen, ear has not heard, the wonders that are in store for those who believe.
Well, he saw it. He wasn't allowed to.
He wasn't allowed, he could not express it.
But God didn't want us.
Yochanan, John, he could not express. It's not just that, it's just not.
Because we'd be dissatisfied or just ready to go to another dimension.
No, I think you should be that anyway. No, it's because we're in a fallen world. This is a fallen state. So let me go one more with you on the physics trap, just to cue you up. So Einstein, in his theory of relativity, came up with a theory called spooky science. He also called it science misbehaving at a distance, saying that everything does not behave the way it's supposed to behave. Now, mind you, Albert Einstein was a Jewish man. He was raised with all of this. He came up with his theory of relativity due to the Zohar, due to his study of the Zohar. I'm not kidding you. So E equals mc squared, right? His most famous equation. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So he said, what is spooky science? Or light misbehaving, science misbehaving at a distance? It is this. When they shoot a light particle, a light beam, to a certain target, as long as it is being observed, it does what it's supposed to do. But when it is not being observed, it does not do what it's supposed to do. Thus it misbehaves. Say what? They would shoot a light particle. You have a piece of cardboard as your target. Okay, everybody with me? You have a piece of cardboard as your target. War artwork. You have a piece of cardboard as your target. And over here you have the gun that shoots the light particle.
Like a laser?
Yeah. But it just shoots one particle. It'll just shoot one particle. Yes. So it shoots the particle. The target is a hole in the cardboard. So they would shoot, they would send the particle to the board, aimed at the hole. So as long as they're observing it, the particle does what it's supposed to do. It goes through the target, it goes through the hole. But they found out that if it's not being observed, the particle will actually not go through the hole, it'll wander around. And it'll just wander around. Until it's being observed, then it shoots through the hole. And it does what it's supposed to be doing. And Einstein called this spooky science. Or science misbehaving.
And how do they know it wasn't being observed if they were observing it? How would they not? How would they know it did that?
You're getting into the quirks of it that I don't understand myself, except for this was what they were able to come up with. However, let me say that last week there was an article in I don't remember which magazine it was in one of the scientific magazines, concerning this very thing that they have now observed, not observing it, observed it misbehaving. So they've proven that this is true.
Is that sort of like what miracles done?
Yes, but what this gets us into is all kinds of cool questions like, okay, so a scientist asked this question. Since we are all reflections, since all matter is reflection of light, whereas light slowed in its vibration and it's misbehaving when it's not being observed, if I turn around and I'm no longer observing you, are you there?
Or are you going to misbehave?
Well, the answer to that, the teacher in me will say yes. But this is a real question that they ask. If you don't see it, does it exist? And one of the reasons why they go down this, what all this has to do is the law of conservation of energy. Everything tends to conserve its energy. So light, when it's shot out, as long as you're observing it, it must use its energy. But if you're not observing it, this is their theory, if you're not observing it, then it conserves energy because it must follow the law of conservation of energy. Now I know, all of this is like, you know, it's hard for us to grasp and understand and everything like that. But this is real scientific theories that physicists are studying. This is what physics, quantum physics is all about. It's this very kind of thing. So as long as you're observing it, it's there. This is what the matrix is all about. As long as you're looking at it, observing it, it's there.
So the world does revolve around us.
The world was created for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, not to delve too deep into this, what we're saying here, what this is all about, is that we're trying to express to you that the things that the majority of people see as being important have no importance at all.
They matter not. They matter.
They do not matter, correct. There is no matter. The things that we're focusing on, the attainment of possessions and properties and all of these kinds of things that we chase after. I own nothing. This is the doorway. This is the door. Okay? Watch. So I told you that Dalet is the door. If you look at this, as we closed last week, we pointed this out to you. This is the Bedouin tent. Remember the Bedouin tent, which is the bait? Okay? The Dalet, if I take this and move it here, it's the door. Okay? If you can picture, this is a curtain rod with a curtain on it. Right there. That's a Dalet right there. It's a curtain rod with the curtain hanging down. Okay? So it's the door to the house.
The kingdom?
The kingdom. How do you get into the kingdom? How do you come into the door?
You're Jesus.
Recognize this. I own nothing. It's not mine. He's a real king. This is a real kingdom. He owns everything. And what I have is not mine, and he has the right to give and he has the right to take. I.e., Job, right? The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. And then how does he end it? Baruch Hashem Adonai. Blessed is the name of the Lord. He has the right to give and he has the right to take away. So, turn if you would, if you have your Bibles, turn to the book of John, chapter 10. And we'll close it down in just a minute here. John 10. Juan capítulo 10. Versículo 7, verse 7. So Yeshua said again, Amen, Amen. Amen from Emet. Emet means truth. Amen means it is true. Amen. It is true.
Is this where he says verily, verily?
Verily, verily, truly, truly.
Yeah.
Literally, amen. I tell you, I am the gate. Many translations have, I am the door. Same word here. For the sheep. All those who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone comes in through me, he will be saved. He will come and go and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, slaughter, destroy. I have come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So how do you find life? You find life through Yeshua. But there are hundreds of thousands of people who say that they believe in Yeshua, that they're followers of Jesus. But I say that they don't have life. Because they've never understood something. It's more than just pronouncing with your mouth, vocalizing.
It's a way of
It is the acknowledgement of this. He's the king. I'm the slave. I own nothing. In the relationship, in the slave and master relationship, what does the master own? Everything. What does the slave own? The master even owns the slave. Therefore, everything that pertains to the slave actually belongs to. Let me say this again. Okay? The master even owns the slave. Therefore, every possession that the slave owns actually belongs to. Let me say it again. The master owns the slave. Therefore, everything the slave owns, everything the slave possesses actually belongs to the master. Who? The master. Saying what? I have shoes on my feet, but I do not belong to myself. I belong to my master. Therefore, everything I possess, including my shoes, belong to the master.
You're just using them. They're like borrowed almost.
So, when I was about 7, 8 years old, my mom ticked me off.
No way.
I was very upset. She made me angry. And what do angry kids when they're 7 or 8 years old who get ticked off at their moms and dads, what do they say? I'm running away. Did you ever use that on your parents?
Yes.
I'm running away from home. So, my mom taught me a lesson that I've never forgotten. She said, okay. She did? Okay. Go ahead. Run away. She said, just understand this. 2 rules for runaways out of this house. Rule number 1, you can take nothing with you. And I said, but what about all my stuff? What about my toys? What about my clothes? And she says, no. What about food? No. Well, how come? How come I can't? They're mine. She said, no, they're not yours. They're mine. I paid for them. She said, you wear them. I own them.
Amen.
So you don't take anything with you.
So you had to start
I said, Mom, I said, Mom, and she said, that's right, you go out that door naked.
Did you?
No, because then she said the second thing. If you leave, if you walk out that door, you don't ever come back. Now mind you, I was only like 8 years old.
That's harsh.
Guess what words I never said to my mother again?
I'm running away.
Never again. I learned very quickly.
Yeah.
That got me nothing. In fact, it took everything away. So, I own nothing. Everything belongs to the king. Let's look a little further at what he has to say. Verse 11, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. The hired worker is not the shepherd. The sheep are not his own. He sees the wolf coming. He abandons the sheep and he flees. Then the wolf snatches and scatters the sheep. The man is only a hired hand and does not care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, I know the Father, and I lay down. Okay, now the reason why I'm reading this, and we're going to close with this, because I'm going to read you what the Kabbalist rabbis say concerning Dalit. You ready for this? What the Kabbalistic rabbis say concerning Dalit. The Dalit is the poor man who receives charity from the rich man, Gimel. The word Dalit means door. The door stands in the opening of the house, Bay. What have I just shown you? Okay? In the Zohar, Dalit is read that has nothing of her own. Delayed, remember? This expresses the property of the lowest of the divine emanations, the Sephirah of Malchut, of the kingdom, which has no light other than that which it receives from the highest Sephirah, which is Keter. In other words, the only light we have is the light from God Himself. Remember everything that we've discussed tonight, put it all together. That light was what? We're all made out of what?
Light.
Light. Light was the first of creation. The first thing He creates is light. Why? Because He is light, and in Him is no darkness at all. So, listen. It has no light of its own. In man's service of God, the Dalit characterizes shiflut, lowliness. The tzaddik. Did I take it down? The tzaddik. The tzaddik is the man who understands this.
Did you say loneliness?
Lowly.
Lowly. Okay.
L-O-W-L-Y. Lowly.
Loneliness.
As in the quote from the prophet Isaiah concerning Yeshua, that behold your king who comes lowly, riding on a donkey. Okay? Saying what? We're saying here that this is also Mashiach. What was the mark? What was the contrast of the Messiah, of Yeshua? His humility. His humility. So he says, lowliness, the consciousness of possessing nothing of one's own. Yeshua possessed nothing of his own. Remember that one came to him and said, Master, I would follow you. And he said, if you follow me, where will you stay? For the birds have their nests in the trees, the foxes have their holes in the ground, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. He had nothing. He had no possessions. And what he had, what did he have? If he has no possessions, what does he have?
Nothing.
Himself. His will and his choice. But even his will was not his own will, because what did he say? I do nothing of my own. I have not come to do my will, but I have come to do the will of the one who has sent me. So that what? As a true servant, I do not even have a will of my own. I serve at the delight of the king. I serve at the delight of the king, so that when the king tells me go there, I go there. Go there, I go there. When he tells me, when the king tells me do this, I do this. When he says do that, I do that. When the king says to me, you may have this, then I have that. When the king takes away from me and says, you may not have that, I may not have that. And what do I say? What do I say? I say, yes, sir. Yes, your grace. Yes, your majesty. Yes, your highness. Why? He is a real king. This is a real kingdom. We say, we sing the song on Yom Kippur, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu. What does Avinu mean? Avinu, my father, our father. Malkeinu, our king. Yes, he's my father, but he's also my king. And my response to him is to be, yes, your majesty. Yes, your grace. And Yeshua set this example before us, and that's what Philippians chapter 2 is all about. He took to himself the position of servant. And he learned to be obedient even to the death of the cross. Why? Because nothing belongs to him. It all belongs to God, to the Father. It all belongs to the King. So he says, together with the awareness of one's own power of free choice, one must be aware that he gives you the power to achieve success, and do not think, God forbid, that one's accomplishments are my power and the strength of my hand. I can do nothing without you. Everything is his. I'm his. All that I have is his. And when I acknowledge that, that's when I begin to learn and grow. When I acknowledge that, that's when I begin to walk through the door. Any achievement in this world, particularly the performance of a mitzvah, the fulfillment of God's will, depends upon divine aid. This is especially true with the struggle of the evil inclination. I don't have time to read everything. So he says in regard to all of this, the door to God's house allows for the humble spirit to enter. Who is it whom God sees? The humble. If my people who are called by my name would do what? Humble themselves and pray and seek my face. Who does Yeshua call to him? The meek and the humble.
That's why they're blessed. He says, blessed are.
Which is Matthew chapter 5.
Blessed.
And the first bracha, the first blessing is to whom? The poor in spirit. Who's the poor in spirit? Those who recognize this, I owe nothing. Therefore, if I owe nothing, we close. Watch. Therefore, if I owe nothing. I told you that the Dalit is what?
One man
Who's doing what?
bowing down.
He's bowing down. Who's he bowing to? The king. Saying what? Remember the prayer that Yeshua prays before he goes to his execution.
Not my will, but yours.
Even to the death. Even to the death. I perceive everything to be mine. It's all mine, mine, mine. And yet I own nothing. The truth is, none of it is mine. My life is not even mine. It is God who gives it. It is God who takes away. It is God who caused me to be born. It is God who will cause me to die. Nothing belongs to me. It all belongs to Him. The sooner I am able to acknowledge this, the sooner I am able to get out of the trap that I own anything, the sooner I can come to terms with the reality of God and my position with Him, the sooner I become content and satisfied, because I recognize that I only live at His will. It's only through Him. And so I have Dalit here, I have Gimel here, I have Vav here. Dalit comes all the way back around to Vav. It's the door to the house. Who's in the house? The Father. How do I get there? Humility. There is a term in Hebrew called Hasidut. Hasidut is where we get the term Hasid, as in the Hasidic Jew. Hasidut has is a style, is a type of living. Has three points to it. Okay? This is a form of Judaism. Point number 1 is righteousness. Point number 2 is humility. Point number 3 is joy. This is what the Hasidim practice. This is why the Hasidim, these are the crazy guys that do all the crazy dancing. These are the happy ones, right? These are the ones that have the long locks, right? And you see them, and they're all like, oh, right? These are the ones that in our liturgy service, and we're singing Mashiach, 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 oi, 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 Mashiach, 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 oi, 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 oi. These are the Hasidim. They're happy. They're full of joy. Why are they full of joy? Because they recognize the fact that I don't own anything. And if I don't own anything, it's not my problem. Right? If I don't own anything, it's not my problem. Whose problem is it? It's his problem. So what? I can be oi, 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 oi. Does Paul not tell us to rejoice in everything? And to be thankful and to be content? This is Hasidut. Huh?
But you're not telling people to be irresponsible.
What do you mean irresponsible?
Well, like not taking, like if you have a house you live in, clean it, keep it, or take care
So
of it.
I didn't say that, did I?
No, but I'm just
Okay,
saying.
well then I didn't say that.
It's like people like, oh,
People will
it's
take-
not mine, it's
people
rented,
will
I
take-
don't have to fix anything.
People will take anything and twist it to make what they want out of
Right.
it. Okay? So I didn't say that. There's a whole bit, that's a whole different ballpark for being righteous, being cute, humble, and having joy. Doing the right thing. Righteousness, that squares it all right there, because how are you righteous? What makes righteousness? Torah. Following Torah is what that is righteousness. That is doing the right thing. What does Torah tell you to do? So the scripture says what? A man who doesn't take care of his home? Okay?
But
So
you're not
right.
telling people they can't have nice homes and things, but just realize that you own them.
So I didn't say that, did I?
Right, but people can really take what you
Well,
say.
they're going to take what I
That's why I'm
say.
asking the question.
Yeah, but they're going to take what I say anyway. So that's why some of these questions I don't take, because I didn't say that.
Right.
Okay? And I'm being nice about this, seriously. Because people can take whatever I say, and they can make it to be what they want it to be.
I need to see that. I need to see that.
So, yeah, what does it mean for me to have nice things, or not to have nice things? It's not mine. But this also does away with all of this jealousy and class warfare and all of this kind of stuff that people want to get involved in, anarchy and all of this kind of stuff. It completely does away with that. Because what? It is God who determines who has and who does not have. And I'm to be content with what God has given to me. If God wants me to have, He'll give to me. If He doesn't want me to have, He won't give to me. It's as simple as that. He's the key. My response is, yes, Your Majesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not to strive to keep up with the Joneses,
No.
so to speak.
Absolutely not.
And that people get into that trap.
So, next week we will finish out down and we'll come to
Not next week.
Not next week, 2 weeks. K is the Spirit of God. With that we say, B'chol Shalom and Laila Tov.